All right, so here we are with our very first interview here at Lone Star Percussion. It all starts here with Mr. Ignacio Berroa. And I'm Robert. Sean's behind the camera, and this is Ignacio. He performed a clinic here last night, and the previous night you were up at University of North Texas performing with their Latin jazz group. And we're going to talk with him today, and then he's back to teaching. So, state your name.
Robert
Anderson.
Anderson.
Thank you. Yeah, that was correct. All right. So, some of these questions were answered last night, but for all of our potential viewers out there, I'm going to ask some of the same ones. First one, where did this all start? What attracted you to drumming?
When I was 12 years old, my father came into my house with two albums. One by Nat King Cole Trio, no drums, and the second one by Glenn Miller Orchestra with Gene Krupa. So when I heard that, I knew immediately that I want to be a jazz musician and also a drummer. So I would say that
Gene
Krupa was the guy.
Was there a particular song that you remember that you were like, yeah?
American Patrol? Is that correct? Patrol?
American Patrol?
Patrol.
Yes.
American Patrol. That was the one. That was the one that really got me. So.
Okay, let me ask you, to this day, when you hear that song, does it take you back to when you were 12?
Oh, yes, of course.
Right on.
Of course. Every time I hear that, you know.
Was that one of the first songs you tried to learn? Because you said you were self-taught as a youngster.
Exactly. Actually not. I heard that in my house, and this is funny. I heard that in my house, and then I went to the National School of the Arts in Havana, and I went to study the violin. Because my mother wanted me, my father is a violinist, so my mom wanted me to be like him. So I heard that album, check this out, when I heard those albums, I didn't tell my dad that I fell in love with that music. So I went to school, and I felt like I don't want to betray my dad, because probably he's also thinking that, oh, my son is going to be a violin player like me. So I didn't tell him. And I went to school to play the violin. I stayed with the violin for 1 year, and actually I was so afraid to hurt his feelings that my friends at the school were the one who told my father, listen, Ignacio, your son wants to be a drummer. But once I started with drums, I never tried to learn that tune, probably because the school that I went to, everything was a classical training formation. So it was just about Mozart, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, so nothing about Afro-Cuban music or jazz. And back in those days, due to the political situation in Cuba, playing jazz was kind of prohibited because it was the music of the enemy.
Right.
So actually, I think that when I started playing jazz, the first tune that I tried to learn was a tune called Morning. I don't remember the composer, but it goes like this. That was the first tune that I tried to learn.
Success, right?
Yeah.
First time. That's awesome. And so in your classical training, was it snare drum and mallets?
Mallets, it was snare drums that actually, we didn't have snare drums. Everything was on the practice pad. And you didn't want to see the practice pads we had in Cuba back in those days in the 60s. But everything was just on the pad. And so we had some marimbas and timpani. So we had that for real. But snare drums, we went through all the snare drum book just on the pad.
What book? Just out of curiosity.
The first one, the curriculum in Cuba back in the days when I was a student, the first book was the Henry Adler Buddy Rich book.
Okay.
That was like the first year. We used to do 3 years of snare drums, and then we'll go to mallets. So the first book of the 3 year snare drum course were Buddy Rich, Henry Adler. The second one was Benjamin Podensky.
Okay.
And the third one was written by a Russian guy that we used to say that not even the guy who wrote the book was able to play that book. because it was very hard. So that was, once you pass we used to call it the Russian book, you were done with the snare.
Okay.
And then you would pass to play marimba, vibraphone, timpani. I didn't get the chance to finish the mallet because they called me to go to the army. So I went to the army for 3 years, and once I got out of the army, I decided that I didn't want to go back to school. I just want to be a professional. So I got out and started playing drums.
And how old were you when you went in the army?
When I went to the army, I was 16.
And you did that for 2?
Well, actually, I was dismissed because I had arthritis, and I was dismissed. But back in those days, you were going to the army for 3 years.
Okay.
Has to be in the army for 3 years. And musicians, we got lucky. I went to the marching band. So,
Okay.
but before to go to them, I think here in the States it's the same. If you sign with one of those army bands, you go to training camp like for 3 months or something.
I believe that's the way it is
Yes,
there.
okay, so that's the way it used to be in Cuba. We went to training camp, and then I was spend the rest of the time in the marching band.
And so it was after the army when you,
Actually, right after the army was when I became a professional. That was in 1972.
okay,
Yeah, that's when I became a professional drummer.
okay. And so, and you talked about this last night. When did you first get behind your first drum kit?
I remember that it was in 1968. I was going, I was at the National School of the Art, and then after that I went to the National Conservatory in Havana, and I started playing with some friends there, so playing a rock band,
Mm-hmm.
you know, playing like Beatles tune and Rolling Stones. And,
Oh, very cool.
yeah, so that happened in 1968. That was the first time that I really sat down behind a drum set on a regular basis.
Okay. And so, 68, you got your first set, and then 72 is when you turned professional? Or you didn't have your first set?
No,
That's right.
It was somebody else set. When I got the only set I was able to get in Cuba, that happened in 1976, and I got a set that I bought from another guy, and I bought the set and I took the set to a place where I used to play every night. We used to play. It was a type of Vegas type of show, you know,
Right.
with the orchestra and dancers and singers. So a friend of mine called me up, said, "Hey, Ignacio, I got this gig for you, but you need a drum set." And I was lucky that this guy, old Cuban drummer, was selling his set, so I bought it from him. And from his house, I took the set right to the cabaret, to the gig, and the set stayed there.
So how did you practice?
Hey, practice pad.
Practice pad?
Practice pad, and I shouldn't say this, but I have to be honest. I never practiced much. I was more into baseball.
Okay,
So I'm a frustrated baseball player.
okay. We
So
are.
my passion was baseball, so I pay a lot of attention to playing baseball and not too much. When I was at the National School of the Art, I used to practice a lot on the practice pad, you know. But mainly I used to practice my reading. I
Okay.
was always concerned about sight reading instead of being concerned about the rudiments, which I really, I really regret these days that I didn't do my homework
Huh.
back then.
You'd never be able to tell.
Thank you, but yes.
I happen to know that you've done some teaching. Has there ever been a period in your life, I know that I believe it was one semester, you taught at UNT for Mr. Soph. Have you ever taught on a regular basis?
No, I did that. Well, for me, it was an honor when Ed Soft called me to replace him when he when he was on sabbatical at UNT. But before that, it was a few months. I did something at Florida International University, Actually, not a few months. It was like probably for 2 years, but I didn't have too many students. And back in those days, I also was traveling a lot with Tito Puente All Stars and all the people that I don't remember now. But I have never done that on a regular basis. I would love to do so because I like to teach. I love that. I love teaching.
Yeah, well, you should. You have a lot of information to relay to others, and
Yeah.
and you have a perfect personality for it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll blow off that question, and I was going to ask if you had what students have made you the most proud, or maybe some people that you've taken under your wing.
Actually, if I mention the name, no, I don't
No?
have it. Since I haven't done this on a regular basis, I can't think about, oh, this is a student of mine. I hope I see that before I die, that I will go to a place to teach and being able to say, oh, I taught this guy for 2 years or 3, and I saw how he developed.
Okay. I think you should. You know, you have. There's a lot of information in that brain, so
Thank
let
you.
it let it out.
What I'm gonna need is a translator.
Translate? Nah. Or maybe we need to learn Spanish.
Oh.
Okay. You explained last night at our clinic kind of how you got the gig with Dizzy Gillespie. Can you give us a quick little rundown of that?
Well, I got the gig with Dizzy Gillespie thanks to a great Cuban musician that came to the United States in 1929. He was a trumpeter and a saxophonist and a great arranger, Mario Bauza. He was the lead trumpeter on Cat Calloway Big Band back in the 30s, I think, or 40s. And he was the one who gave Dizzy Gillespie his first break. Actually, it was Mario who brought Dizzy Gillespie to Cat Calloway Big Band.
Wow.
And since Dizzy got associated with Mario Bauza, that's where his interest on Afro-Cuban music started. So Dizzy and Mario were very good friends. So I got to New York in 1980, and I was invited to a jam session. I was invited by another musician called also Mario, but this Mario was from Dominican Republic. Anyway, my long story short, I was at Mario Rivera's house. He invited me to see his band rehearse, and during the break, he asked me to sit in and jam with them. So we started jamming, and at some point, Mario Rivera went over to the phone. He grabbed the phone and he called Mario Bauza because Mario Bauza used to live nearby. So Mario Bauza came in, and once the jam was over, we were introduced. I knew who Mario Bauza was, but I didn't know him personally. So anyway, we met, and he took me under his wing. He became my mentor, and he told me, okay, we're gonna meet next week. We're gonna go to the union, so you have to belong to the union. What he didn't tell me was that when he went back to his apartment, he called Dizzy Gillespie. So he called Dizzy, and he told Dizzy, there is a drummer that just came from Cuba that you might be interested in checking him out at some point because he plays all the Afro-Cuban rhythms, and he can also play some straight ahead. So that happens in August 1981, and on December of that year, I was in my aunt's house writing a letter to my family in Cuba, and suddenly the phone rang, and I picked it up, and I hear this voice on the other side. Hey, Ignacio, how you doing? I said, I'm doing fine. Mario, how you doing? I said, Ma, what are you doing now? I said, I'm writing a letter to my family in Cuba, and the next line he says is, do you want to play with Dizzy Gillespie tonight? And I went said, Mario, you're too old for this kind of jokes at this time. And he said, no, I'm serious. Dizzy Gillespie is playing tonight in a club in New York called Fat Tuesday, and his drummer is stranded in Boston. They closed the airport because of a snowstorm. So I told him about you a long time ago, so he needs a drummer for tonight, and he just called me and asked me about you. So you pack your drums, dress nicely, get your drums in a cab, and drive to Manhattan. I used to live in the Bronx. Drive down to Manhattan. This is the address. So I told him, okay, are you going? Are you going to be there? I don't speak English. How am I going to communicate with Dizzy Gillespie? And he said, I don't know, it's too cold out there, I'm not going. So you got it, you're your own. So I called a friend of mine, Jerry Gonzalez. He got a car, a friend's car. He picked me up, he drove me down. He was my translator. And he told this is Ignacio. And I asked Jerry, please ask him what are we going to play. And DC said, well, don't worry about what we're going to play. I think DC assumed that if I was there, I knew his repertoire, which I did. So DC told Jerry, you tell Ignacio, when I go like this, it's 4/4 swing. When I go like this, it's 6/8. When I go like this, he has to stop. And when I point at him, it is drum solo. Let's go. And we went to the stage, and thanks God that I knew his repertoire. Everything went well. So that's the piece of advice that I always give everybody. You know, we have to practice in order to being able to, when we get that lucky call, we have to be prepared to do the gig. Right. So because you might get lucky, be at the right place at the right time and get the call, but if when you go to the gig, you're not prepared for it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it, it's over. So I always tell people I was lucky and I was also ready, prepared for that moment. Thanks God I spent a lot of time listening to this music and Miles Davis and everybody. So
yeah,
I was lucky, really. I was lucky because if Mario Rivera, he knew Mario Bauza, probably Mario Bauza wouldn't hear about me.
Yeah.
Soon enough for me to get this gig a year after I arrived to New York.
That's a great story. But like you said, you were able to deliver. You knew the tunes, and
I knew the tunes. I know everything this was playing. I know the tune.
What was the first song you called?
I think the first song he called that night was Salt Peanuts. It's a tune that goes. That was the first tune he called.
And you burned it, obviously. So
you know, it was okay.
Cool. Well, and how long did you play with Dizzy?
I played with Dizzy on and off like 10 years because I started playing with him in 1981, and 83 I had to leave his band because the people that came from Cuba in 1980, I came when the Mariel boat left. We didn't have a starter. We were like, our starter was like Limbo.
Right.
So at the beginning, I started traveling with Dizzy in 1981. Since it was Dizzy Gillespie, he had to call the White House and get a special permit for me to travel abroad. But I didn't have a passport. It was just a piece of paper with my photo. It was like a re-entry permit to the United States. So anyway, it was very painful for Dizzy, for myself. And after 2 years of doing that, I remember Dizzy had a tour, he was touring Japan. And the Japanese, they didn't give me the visa. They said, if he doesn't have a passport, we're not gonna let him in. And I told Dizzy, you need a drummer with a passport. So I left the band, and when I became American citizen in 1986, he called me back, and then I played with him until he passed away in 1993. In between, every time he had a gigs in New York and some places in the States, he called me for the gigs. We became friends. For me, when I think about Dizzy Gillespie, I think about a friend, my father. He always took care of me and always called me out. I remember he always used to tell me, Ignacio, don't give up. You're going to get your passport someday. Don't give up. So after 5 years of waiting, the American government at that time was Ronald Reagan was the president. He gave us the resident status.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a history lesson in your timeline as well, with obviously coming from Cuba to here and the limbo
not knowing the meaning of yes.
Right. Yeah, learning English.
Learning English by myself. And thanks to Dizzy, he taught me a lot. Dizzy, he taught me a lot.
That's great. Because we are here at a drum store, Want to talk gear for a little bit?
Well,
You play Yamaha drums? Great
I have
drums.
been playing Yamaha drums for almost 20 years now. And I think I started playing Yamaha, oh, not, I think it was 1995, 95. One of the greatest drums in the market. So,
Very nice.
I've been very happy playing Yamaha. I was telling Scott the other day, I haven't seen a set of Yamaha that doesn't sound good. So,
Yeah, I mean,
very
it's-
happy with playing Yamaha. Now I'm playing Sabian cymbals. Also, we've been playing Evans drums head, Big First sticks, and Latin percussion.
What kind of what Vic Firth sticks?
I use the SD. Let me see. Hold on a second. I don't remember. Okay.
Oh, that's worn out.
SD8.
SD8
Yep.
maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm thinking about getting a lighter sticks. I don't know. I'm getting old, and these sticks are kind of heavy for me now.
So you recently switched to Sabian. What attracted you to Sabian?
Well, I always was attracted to Sabian. Actually, before when I signed with Buffalo's 10 years ago, I left Sabian and I signed with Sabian.
Oh, okay.
I was even before I went to Sabian. I remember in the early 80s when Sabian came on the market. Some people approached me about going to Sabian, and for some reason I don't remember what happened. I think Sabian approached me. It was my friend Peter Eskin, the one who recommended me with Sabian, and I signed with Sabian. And then when I left, I went to Sabian, but Jeff Hamilton, who left Sabian at the same time that I did, he got involved with Buffalo's, and he recommended me going to Buffalo's, and they called me and they offered me to do a line of cymbals, and I remember I called, back in those days, it was David By, the artist relation guy. He was the guy responsible for signing artists with Sabian. I explained to him what happened. He said, hey, Ignacio, it's no problem. You know, I will go with Buffalo's. You more than welcome anytime you want to come back. So I think that 3 months ago,
Yeah, it's been very recent.
yeah, 3 months ago, I decided going to with Sabian.
Yeah, and
And
these cymbals sounded great last night. I was here. I heard
yeah,
it.
so far everywhere I have been playing, everybody tell me, Ignacio, those cymbals sound great.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy. I went to Boston and picked them up. I'm planning of going to the factory at the end of this month, or the beginning of May, and get some other cymbals.
Yeah.
And work on
A little stockpile.
Yeah.
Well, cool. A few more questions. What's your favorite place in the world?
My favorite place in the world,
You've been all over the world, so
Paris.
why?
I don't know. I can't explain why. The
Just
first time I went there, you know what? I have been in Paris, I don't know how many times. And every time I go to that city, I just go out and walk. I can't explain to you what it is, but since it's the same thing that happened when my dad walked me to my house with the Glenn Miller album and Nat King Cole.
It's just
I heard that and it was like love at the first sight. Oh my God! So that's what happens to me with Paris.
right, and you still go there now, right?
Yeah.
You get to take your family and
Yes, I was able to go like 3 or 4 years ago when I was able to go with my wife. Beautiful place.
very cool. And you currently live in New Jersey, is that right?
I live right now in New Jersey. I used to live in Miami and moved to New Jersey in 2006.
And you like it there?
I love it. What I don't like is the winter time.
Yeah, especially on you being from the southern hemisphere. Yeah,
Yeah, I live very close to New York. New York is a great city, and
absolutely.
the intensity of the city, but I love it during the summertime.
Right.
When the winter comes and when it gets bitter,
Go south.
my God, it is rough for me.
All right, a few more. You have any? Well, I know you do, but for everyone else, what are some of your hobbies and interests? I know you mentioned baseball earlier.
That's it. That's my passion, baseball.
Favorite team?
Yankees.
All the way?
All the way since I was a kid. My dad was a Yankee fan, so since I was a kid, I used to hear in my house about Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Phil Rizzuto, so I was a Yankee fan.
I'm born and raised in Texas by Yankees, and my father is from New York City, so I'm with you on that.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. I'm not as big of a baseball fan as you, but when I root for a team,
Yeah.
sorry people, it's the Yankees.
Yes, baseball is my passion. And when I got time off in my house, what I do is I sit down with my Xbox and play baseball. And I was telling Scott yesterday, I will change everything I have done in music right now to be Derek Jeter. So
Wow.
I want to.
Have you ever met him?
No, I hope I do someday.
You should. I'm sure you could pick that up. Yeah. Have you been to the new stadium?
Not yet.
Not yet. Nor have I, but I want to go. One of the coolest things I got to do several years ago, my sister lives in New York, and I got to go to a Yankee game, kind of last minute, and we actually bullied our way in, and they were playing the Red Sox, and that was the most intense baseball game I've ever seen in my life.
You know that they love each other.
Oh yeah. And I made the grave error of wearing a red shirt, not think. I was ridiculed from the time I got off the train. Yeah, it's great. Well, very cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, man. It's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure to come here to Lone Star. You guys are so great. You make me feel here like home.
Well, you are home. Anytime you want to come visit, you bring yourself.
Thank you very much.
All right, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. All right, man.
See you later, everyone.